What's up, everybody, and welcome back to a special edition of Neek, maybe the podcast. I am the glorious Geek Samurai, Kiku, and with me, as always on these special episodes, is Josh Raish Alfini, the Demon Sour Cream. And today, we're going to be talking to you about Mad Max Fury Road. But not just us. We have a special guest. Some would say he's so special, he rode a bus to get to this show today. He's an actor. He's a comedian. He's a saint of Latter-day Jesus Christ. I think I messed that up. I don't remember what it was. Nick Leali.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. I thought you could introduce me as Seth Rogen's stunt double, so I appreciate that.
Oh my God, I see it.
Now you see it, yeah.
I was actually going to be.
Oh no.
I did mess it up because I was going to go. I know him as Dragon. He knows me as Nighthawk.
Yep. There was so many intros you could have given. I appreciate it though.
Yeah, don't worry, there'll be more. There'll be more intros that I can make fun of, like your enormous head or something.
There's so many intros. My head is spinning with the intros that you're going to give.
There's so much room for intros. Okay,
here we go. Right away.
Jumping in the step, brothers.
Jesus, yeah.
But Mad Max Fury Road. Today, actually, there was an article out on Esquire. International film critics are already calling it the best of 2015. I know for me, it has been the best film so far of 2015. I know for Josh as well, it is the best film of 2015 when it comes to film, like as a movie. Am I wrong, Josh?
No. The only film that I think I've seen all year that even compares to it from a filmmaking perspective is probably Ex Machina. But Fury Road is literally the perfect action movie.
Yeah. Nick,
one sentence.
Yes.
How do you feel about Fury Road? Do you feel that it should deserve such high accolades?
I watched it again last night, and it's weird. It's fallen into this category of movies where, like, I'm not totally sure if I absolutely love it or I just think it's a good movie. Like, I kind of feel that way about, like, Death Cab for Cutie when I listen to them on the radio. Like, do I?
Well,
I watched it again. I know. They're like, wait, what? But it's a good movie, and as far as an action plot goes, like, it nails it. I just, I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel. It's very linear in that sense, and it accomplishes what it wants to, which is, be a high octane, like, adrenaline-driven movie, and that's great. I'm just not totally sure if it's my movie of 2015 though. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, obviously we're gonna delve deep into this. Like, we are going to reach up in there and pull the wedgie out of Mad Max Fury Road. Josh has a lot of history when it comes to pulling out wedgies, as he was the kid that got Melvined all the time in high school.
I was not, but thank you.
Chelsea told us. We know. But I had those same feelings too, Nick, at first, until I had a brief for me and Josh conversation about it after watching the movie. Going back and looking at it and reevaluating everything that's going on in that movie, there are so many themes that George Miller put in there. Sometimes it's a little heavy-handed, but some of the themes that were coming out, that everyone has heard so far is, like, the movie's really not about Max, it's about Furiosa. The movie's about feminism. But there's actually more that I caught, and me and Josh had long conversations about. Would you guys agree with that so far, that feminism is the number one,
like the driving point?
The driving point, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Like, you can't miss that. It's focused around Charlize Theron's character, so yeah, for sure.
Yeah, from a surface level, I think that's true. That's the most easy one to grasp onto, right? It would take an idiot to go into that movie and not see that as an overt theme in the film. But like you said, you and I had the conversation. It goes so much deeper than that. But definitely, Charlize Theron's Furiosa is the driving point of the entire movie. Without her, the movie falls apart.
There were actually a couple of scenes at the beginning of the movie that I think really drive it home, what you're getting into. Number one is the fact that she steals the women who were Immortum Joe's favorite breeders. basically pointing it out that that's what women are for. They're there to breed. And of course, if you look at all the females that they showed so far through that film, and even up throughout the film, they are the prettiest. They are the cleanest looking. So they obviously were seen as objects to be kept. Mm-hmm. The one scene that actually really, I think, shocked me, but also really got me thinking was the scene where they have all the women who are attached to like milk suckers. They're basically just there to create milk, and it's another powerful statement about women in society, that they are there to breed and they are there to feed, and then that's about it. That there's no other purpose for them.
Yeah, you see it there, and then the scene that stuck out to me was when they make their escape and Max first encounters all the women on the war rig after they come out of the giant dust storm. Right, they're taking off the chastity belts, essentially.
I noticed that last night too. Yeah, yep.
That stood out to me because the camera focuses on those at several points over about the 5 or 6 minutes that scene takes place. As they're driving away, and while the dialogue is going on, the camera just keeps coming back to that. That's a very pointed statement by George Miller that I think you're in control of your own body. Like, somebody else can't tell you what to do with that.
I think the larger statement there is that many people feel that they own that sexual organ. Men especially feel that they have some sort of stake or claim to it when they're with somebody, which is just not the case.
Yeah, and he did a good job too. Like, I noticed that the women, they're not feeble and needing her help. Like, they can handle their own. Like, they handle their own, and they do well. They can fight, and they're pretty badass, to be honest. Like, I watched it again for the second time, and they can keep up with, the action, what's going on. So, granted, they're not as trained as, Furiosa is, but they definitely can hold their own.
Yeah, they're definitely fearless, and I really enjoyed that. That one of the women does try to run back because she's scared, but it's more of a momentary fear. It's not like not like they're all cowering in the war rig the entire movie. When stuff starts to go down, they're grabbing weapons, they're reloading weapons, they're a part of the action, they're a part of the their own freedom. And I think, again, another very strong statement by George Miller. So that's all the obvious stuff, I think. But I really want to get into my favorite character. Okay. Which is not General Nux. It is not Nux, although he is one of my favorites. But actually the titular character of Max himself. What did you guys think about Max in this film?
I think... sorry, Nick, were you going to go?
No, I was just saying, go ahead. You're good.
Okay. I think Tom Hardy is a perfect successor, just straight off the bat. Perfect successor to the role that Mel Gibson originated and became famous for. It felt fairly seamless to me, but I wasn't sure if I liked how quiet he was. Max is normally a quieter character in the films. He doesn't have a ton of dialogue to begin with, which is why I was surprised when so many people were like, well, why is he quiet? Why isn't he saying so much? But the fact that such a soft-spoken character throughout the film does so many big things and has so many grand gestures throughout it really emphasizes the saying that actions speak louder than words to me. And I think even though the movie is named after Max, I was kind of okay with him being a co-lead with Furiosa. I really like that personally. I like that the dynamic that those two characters share throughout the whole film, and how if you've never seen a Mad Max film before and you went into this not knowing for some reason who Max Rockatansky is, then you're kind of kept in the dark. At the very end is when he finally tells everybody his name. After they've won the fight, he finally tells them who he is, as Furiosa is laying there presumably dying. That was a very powerful moment for me when that occurs.
I mean, I like that. Probably my favorite aspect of the movie is that they underplayed his character. Like, even though the movie is based, it's him, it's Mad Max, but it's just him kind of being thrown into a situation. And you notice that too about the movie, that all these people, they're just established right away. Like, they don't tell you, here's a Morton Joe. People are just living their lives, and you're thrown right into the middle of this shit, you know? And I was watching it with Jackie. She said the same thing, like, wow, there is no build-up to characters. Like, you just get introduced right away to these people. And, like, with Max, I like that he is the main character, but he takes a back seat because the best illustration to draw from is, like, I love the Witcher games because he even says in it, he says, you know, Geralt, the main character, says, the world doesn't need a hero, it needs a professional. And that's kind of how Max is in this. He's not a hero. He's the guy that can get the job done, and he happens to be in this situation with this group of people. And even at the end, as she's rising up and he's fading away, I think that's symbolic to, like, hey, you know, I was glad to be a part of your team. Good luck to you, you know?
Yeah. Max could have stayed and become a king at the end, and yet he chooses not to.
Right, his pieces yeah.
He walks away instead, you know, while they're looking around for him, specifically Furiosa, and they lock eyes for the last time as he slips away into the crowd to become anonymous again. That's also a very powerful ending.
It's actually, and not to take away from Furiosa, but, you know, Mad Max, as Josh knows, is one of my favorite characters of all time. I love every single movie, even Beyond Thunderdome, which a lot of people like to, you know, it is the worst of the series. I mean, it is, but I still enjoy it for what it is. But I both love and really hate the fact that he's more of an aside character. But there's, I guess I have understanding about it. Max, in all of the movies actually, except for the first one, because that's really establishing the character. Max is not an anti-hero, and he's not, you know, just some crazy guy. Max is salvation. He is basically the Wasteland's version of Jesus Christ.
Right.
And it's not, you know, before everyone gets up in arms about, oh, well, he doesn't do things like Jesus. Well, of course not, because this is post-apocalyptic. This is the post-apocalyptic version of Christ, basically. The reason that he is an aside character is because he's there to motivate. He's there to, you know, carry Furiosa through during the difficult times. You know, and of course he is mad, and that's what you would need in a messiah, basically, or someone to be your savior. Is someone, is someone who's just as insane as everybody else. Miller kind of broke my heart a little bit with the character because when at the start of the movie and you start seeing him have flashbacks, and it's the first time out of any of the movies you truly start to see Max's, you know, demented side, that really crazy, I'm, you know, messed up side, because they don't show it in the first one. Obviously, it's the start. You know, you get to see his wife and his daughter die, or son, I forgot, his daughter. Yeah, wife and his daughter die, and then you get to see you know, Road Warrior, he's kind of just given up, and he's, you know, reverted to kind of primal instincts of survival. Beyond Thunderdome, it's kind of a similar concept, reverted back, but in Road Warrior and in Beyond Thunderdome and Fury Road, you know, everybody's like, oh, his mission is survival. That's what he does. He's a survivor, and I'm like, no, it's not. He bides his time to save, basically. And of course, it's not a straight out, you know, guy in shining armor riding the magnificent steed and whatnot coming to save the village. It's the person that you feel you can't trust, but he is there, you know, guiding you, moving you through, getting you to where you need to be, basically.
Yeah. You and I had a discussion about this, where in this scenario, if Max is Jesus, then Furiosa essentially comes out to be Moses. Leading the people to freedom. Yeah, she's leading the people to freedom. She's the more, honest to God though, she's the more pure of the two, I feel. She has more pure motives. When we first meet Max, you know, obviously he's in captivity, he's been tortured, he's being used as a blood bag. He's strapped in a car, for God's sake.
Well, you know, I'm glad you brought that up about more pure intentions. I mean, you don't really ever know Max's intentions. You know what I mean? Like, everything he does is for the basics of survival, right? Like, you know, even in like Road Warrior or Beyond Thunderdome, he wants to do these things to just move on and get out. But he's the turning point. He's always stays to do the right thing, or he's, you know what I mean? Like, that's the thing is he's almost like that God works in mysterious ways. Well, so does fucking Mad Max. He works in mysterious ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't gonna disagree with that at all. I was actually gonna kind of lead into that. Because when he first meets up with Furiosa and the Five Wives, he initially tries to take the war rig from them. He's just like, man, I'm sick of this shit. I've just gone through a crazy dust tornado. A guy tried to blow me up. I've been strapped to a car. I've been in captivity for God knows how long. They stole my interceptor. I'm tired of this. I don't even have a shoe. I have one shoe right now.
Yeah.
And so he tries to take the war rig, and then eventually, obviously it's disabled by the kill switch almost right away. And Furiosa's like, you need us, we need you. And that's sort of the turning point. He's like, okay, begrudgingly agrees to go with them. Allows them to go with them.
So would you consider him more of like a jaded god? Like a jaded, messiah?
Yes, as someone who doesn't want the role and begrudgingly accepts the mantle thrust upon him.
Yeah. Okay.
He's just, he's the guy that, he can get the job done. And it's interesting that you said that about Furiosa being like Moses, because there's obvious parallels to Immortan Joe being like Pharaoh, chasing after these people. We've wasted like 86,000 gallons of petrol. Like, how far are you going to go for this family feud is how they put it, And that's kind of how Pharaoh was, so obsessed, with getting back his possessions and it's just interesting. It's very biblical, the whole draw there,
I think that's also why the movie definitely resonates with more people than I ever thought it was going to, because George Miller, the director, writer, producer, love of my life when it comes to dystopian future stuff, what he did was take this cult icon, this character that, for those of us who really like movies, love the character, we love the movies and whatnot, and brought him full force into the mainstream, right? Like, when they announced Fury Road and they were like, this is going to be one of those tentpole summer movies, and I was just like, what? Like, really? And then after you see Fury Road, you're just like, what just happened? Like, it's Mad Max, but it's Mad Max to like the nth degree. It's just out there. It's not a perfect movie, obviously. A couple of knocks, like Nick was saying earlier on about they don't really take any time to establish characters. There were a lot of interesting characters, especially on the Immortan Joe side, that I wish we could have spent more time with.
Right.
Immortan Joe is one of them, obviously. But the two brothers, the one that runs Gastown and the one that ran Bullet Town, what was it, Maneater, and I forget what the other guy's name is.
Right.
What? People Eater. People Eater, like, why was he like that? Why was he so effed up? Why? He looked like a pimple on my ass. I want to know why. What was going on?
Yeah, I agree with that. And conversely, one of my knocks on the film, one of my only knocks, is that we didn't get Immortan Joe or Nux fleshed out. I love the character of Nux. What they did with him, how his character changes, literally does a complete reversal over the course of the 2 hours that we're getting to know them. I remember looking at Chelsea the minute that we see him driving the car with Max. I was like, he's gonna turn. He's gonna turn in this movie. He's gonna become a good guy. He's gonna help them. He's gonna be one of those. They'll switch sides, and she's like, I don't think so. No, there's this guy's nuts. He's gonna die.
And I think his character lends even more credence to the whole, Max being the Messiah of the Wasteland, because if you look at Nux, he was basically worshiping a false idol, and upon meeting the true Messiah, all of a sudden is, I'm here, I'm willing to help you. Funny enough, what also lends credence to that, which you guys should play, is the Mad Max video game. You meet a character, Josh was watching me play it last night on Twitch, that is named Chum Bucket. Chum Bucket calls Max Saint for the entire game so far, and that he is the man of prophecy. So there is a somewhat biblical attachment to the Mad Max.
They obviously picked up on it, and they were like, we need to run with this, because it's pretty obvious. Yeah,
it's pretty obvious, for sure. One of the brothers, the leader of Bullet Town, I don't know why, but the scene where they're trying to get to Greenland and he's chasing them in his little tank because it's the only one that can make it through like the swamp area that used to be the Greenland.
Right.
And he goes blind and starts shooting. For some reason, I just always felt like, even the second time I watched it, I was like, that's a statement on America. I don't know why. it really it made me feel like this is how people view Americans, blind, shooting in the dark, trying to take what's theirs and stuff like that.
Driving their dune buggy through the swamp.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's probably pretty good assessment. Yeah.
I mean, with some of these character deficiencies, like you're saying, we don't know the backstories of some of these characters. Miller removed these stories from the movie, but there's been a Fury Road comic series that's been going along that are the four issues have been prequels to the actual movie. There's 2 issues that center on Max, one that centers on Nux and Immortan Joe, and then one that focuses on Furiosa. And it gives the backstory that I wanted in the movie so desperately on these characters, including some of the minor ones that you described. The leaders of Gastown and Bullet Town are specifically in there. That's something that I don't want to go spend $20 on comic issues to get the backstory of something that should be in the film. The film's fantastic even without that, but that would have added just a bit more meat to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Nick.
I was just gonna say it's interesting how the choice he took with that, how he didn't want to give you too much about the characters, kind of like put you in the middle of it, like I said, and just experience it. We're gonna give you a little bit, and I think everybody on every side says something, and that's pretty much all you get. Like you don't get a lot of backstory, and they just want you to be planted in the middle of it and just kind of see what unfolds, and just take the characters for who they are. So
it's definitely I guess a good thing would be the best way to put it, that we are so interested in wanting to know more about characters who are so definitely insane and just completely out there. One of them's name's People Eater. Like, we want to know about the dude who eats people.
What's the backstory? Yeah.
What's your backstory, sir? When did you eat your first person? At the age of 8. Oh, okay. So it's not just a clever nickname. I got
the ripe young age.
Right. You had to use ripe in that, didn't you? At a ripe young age, I ate this ripe old person.
Well done.
One of the final elements that really stands out to me about this, though, what I feel really brings the film all together. You can have these wonderful action pieces. You can have this. You can have these great characters. You can have Furiosa and Max that we've fallen in love with. But the cinematographic direction that George Miller took with this is just astounding. That and the practical effects used in this. It's been a long time since the film's cinematography captivated me like this. It's been a couple of years. I think the last one I can truly say that was an action film that I was this mesmerized by the cinematography was probably Skyfall, and even that in some ways pales in comparison to this. This is a desert wasteland for 95% of the film, and he made that extremely, extremely, extremely interesting to us. He kept your eyes focused on the action, but simultaneously I found myself looking around the frame the entire film, like, what am I missing? What else is out there? And the specific shot that comes to mind is when Furiosa is driving the war rig straight into the storm at about the 25-minute mark, and the camera zooms out, and you see the giant storm, and everybody else is like an ant down in the middle of the screen. But over on the other side, on the left-hand corner, you can see the other cars, Immortan Joe's army, just creeping up. The level of detail given to that was amazing to me.
Yeah, there's definitely not a lot of wasted shots in the movie.
No. It explains why this took so long to make. This film was shot back in 2012. And
was it really? I didn't even realize.
Spent like 2.5 years in post-production. Yeah. Spent a decade actually in pre-production. He supposedly storyboarded out the entire film, cut like 50 minutes of the film or something. Cut an awful lot of this film out. Shot hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of alternate shots that were never used. It's just phenomenal. This is truly a labor of love. This whole film is, by everybody involved.
Yeah.
So with saying that, where do you go after this movie? Like, if you're George Miller, do you make another Mad Max movie? Like, can you top Fury Road?
I mean, I'm not sure. I think the same question was asked. I'm sure the same question was asked after the original. I'm definitely sure it was asked after the Road Warrior. And for those of you who don't know, Beyond Thunderdome, I think it's an unfair reputation sometime. A lot of behind-the-scenes things happened. George Miller's main producer, his production partner on the original 2 Mad Max films, died just before Beyond Thunderdome went into production, so he kind of lost the will to make it, and made it because he felt compelled to. Like, he needed to finish the work, but he really didn't want to. Fury Road had a very similar production timeline. The 9/11 attacks derailed it originally. He really didn't want to make it after that. He was considering Heath Ledger for the role of Max. Heath Ledger's tragic death caused him to shelf it again until he discovered Tom Hardy and was like, okay, I've got my Max. I got to make this now. I wouldn't be disappointed if there wasn't another Mad Max. I think he could top it, but I don't. At the same time, I don't think that any film would take away, any sequel would take away from what this did.
Well,
Well, that. Oh, go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say it's an interesting thought because I was reading trivia on it. I'm sure you guys do the same thing. Just kind of reading up on it, IMDb, and I did remember reading somewhere that Tom Hardy is supposedly he signed on for 3 more.
Yeah.
So it makes you wonder. Yeah, right. I'm not wrong in saying that. So yeah, it makes you wonder what they're gonna do. And still be that side character, the one that just kind of shows up.
George Miller said that he's already written the next Mad Max. He says he has plans for another one, that he wrote the draft for that concurrently with the story for Fury Road. And originally it was going to be titled Furiosa, but now he's just calling it The Wasteland is the working name of it. Who knows if we'll ever see it. I do know one thing. I never want to see a Mad Max film made by anybody other than George Miller.
Sure.
This is a franchise that, not to be the Grim Reaper, but George is getting up there in years. We talked about this when he was being rumored a couple weeks ago for Man of Steel 2. Given the choice, I would love for him to do another Mad Max. I absolutely would love to revisit that, but at the same time, if he doesn't, the ending to Fury Road feels like a perfect send-off to that character.
Well,
I could take either one. I'd be okay with not getting another one, but I would like another one if that makes sense.
Well, I hope that if he does do another one, Furiosa is not in it. And the only reason I say that is because every Mad Max movie is a standalone movie.
Yeah.
The only thing tying them all together is the central character. And then, of course, in Road Warrior and in Beyond Thunderdome, you had the Gyro Captain, who sorely was missing from this movie. I love him. He's a goofball. But I hope they don't. I hope he focuses on Max. At least if he gets to make 1 more, 2 more movies, I hope it's like the definitive, like actual Mad Max movie where it's, it breaks the character down, like everything that's happened, how mad is he actually, is he truly, salvation of the wasteland? For individuals, obviously he's not going to save the whole wasteland and bring water back to the people because then it would just be taking it too far.
Right.
But I hope that does happen because I think Tom Hardy would be an excellent choice to really get to know the madness of Mad Max.
And they had such fun existential questions. I don't know if you noticed it, but written over Joe's door, it said, "Who killed the world?" And it was actually asked a couple times, who killed the world? I think one of the girls, one of the breeders asked that. They say, "Who killed the world?" So they have these questions, and of course the quote at the end, from what was it, the first History Man or whatever. But it's got a lot of questions like that are interesting. So maybe they'll, bring something else up each movie, and discuss that. Here we are in this dystopian future. Let's just, let's start asking the real questions. That was kind of cool to me. So.
Well, I mean, Miller has always brought, throughout all the movies, the importance of gasoline, or in the films known as guzzling. Even in the 80s, he recognized how powerful gas is. Like if gas went away, we would be in trouble. We would turn into scavengers for it. And I think that it's even a more powerful statement now because back I remember in the 80s when gas went, or 80s or 90s when gas went up to $1.25, and everyone, all the adults I knew at the time were freaking out about it. And now we're paying almost $4 in gas in some places. Is this going to happen? Are we going to get this scorched earth, one day, and we're all going to be driving around in spears in our gas tank?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I like the point that you make, about how the next one really would need to examine the madness of Max. I think that's what Fury Road does in a lot of senses. It starts setting up those questions. It makes you want to see a more in-depth character analysis because, like you said, it's the first time we really get inside Max's brain. Any of these films, so we see the hallucinations he has of the people he couldn't save, and that's explained more in depth in the prequel comic. But I definitely agree. If they were to do one more, it would have to be the definitive version of the character. Tom Hardy is one of the only actors I think out there who could perfectly capture that madness and at the same time make you feel sympathetic towards a character like that. Who's truly, lost everything, but is still trying to make his way in the world, is still trying to, save whoever he can along that comes across his path in the way.
Right.
Begrudgingly.
Yeah. And we in each of the films we see Max descend more and more into that madness. And in Fury Road, I feel like at the end of it, at least, it's like he finally embraces that.
I had the other idea, I guess track was that the more that the world gets mad around him, the saner that he gets.
I think he's perceived as saner in a sense
because of how the world is. He's perceived as that, right?
Yeah, but but I don't know, man. Like if you look at him at the beginning of the movie, he was shaking. He was twitching more. Like the little eye and neck twitch and whatnot. But by the end of the movie, he's especially driving back to Immortan Joe's palace and whatnot. He's steady as a rock. He's now a man with a mission kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I think as it ramps up around him is when he finds his sanity. When madness is going on around him, it's his playground. That's when he's set.
He thrives best in that environment, right?
That's kind of what I'm trying to get at, I guess, is that he embraced it fully.
Gotcha.
He embraced the madness within. I worded that really poorly. That's kind of what I was trying to get at, though, is it's like he's descended into it, and then he just fully embraces it in that last half hour. He's jumping from cars to 18-wheelers to mini tanks. He's fighting the flaming guitar guy.
It's so cool.
So many absurd things that go on that wouldn't happen if you were not truly insane. But like you said, at the same time, that's normality to him almost at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he feels at home. The world is his playground at this point.
Yeah, it's like there's no time frame. You see him in the beginning, like he smashes a two-headed lizard and then throws it in his mouth. Like let's do this. Little nutrition before I get out there and just get absolutely wrecked. And that's like how it starts. You don't know his time frame, how long he's been out in this, this wasteland, or how long he's been a nut job. So it's kind of cool. You're just like, here he is. He's living his life.
Well, I think that's at least since Road Warrior, all the movies have started off with him being in the wasteland and being kind of nutsy, and then coming back to people and kind of finding his sanity and salvation, saving people, and then he goes back into the desert to be mad again. You know what I mean? It's true. He does.
No, right.
He never. If you notice, he never ever stays around people. Like once they're good, it's almost like he's afraid he's going to infect them with his own brand of madness, and so he leaves again, and moves on to the next, the next thing to do.
Yeah. That's, I guess, where he finds his penance, I guess, is just helping, like doing what he can to help, because he knows he's not going to get it for himself, it seems, and that's what's, further causing his madness.
Well, I wonder if his penance is going back out into the desert and really not being around people because he's afraid that anybody he cares about around him is going to die.
Yeah, it could be because he's haunted, obviously, by his daughter, and they keep saying, you failed us, and it's, it's weighing on him pretty heavily. I mean, he's losing his mind in the beginning, so yeah, I could see how that would really cause him to want to just be away from everyone. So
yeah.
And
then he comes back, and that's the thing is, like you said, Nick, is they kept saying you failed us, you failed us, you failed us, but almost everybody that he's helped, he's since then, obviously he has saved them. or shown them a way to go about things. Obviously, George Miller doesn't pull punches, so it's not like every character survives, because he really wants to show the brutality of this wasteland. That it's not, your typical, the hero, is around now, no one's gonna die. It's like, no, anyone can die at any moment. Don't get used to that person. Oh, I just introduced them. Yep, they're getting their head cut off.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I love this. It's just, of all the dystopian movies that I've seen, we've seen, Book of Eli, and there's been The Road. There's been a lot of good movies, but this one has just the most memorable cast of characters, and I think you guys would probably agree. They're so memorable, and after you watch it, you're like, God, just, like Immortan Joe's sons, the one that's in the wheelchair, and obviously the one that accompanies him, the bigger one.
Yeah.
They're such good characters, And everyone is it's so interesting to watch. Nux, and it's great. He did a really good job with that. So.
Well, I think it's because other post-apocalyptic dystopian future type movies, they either try to keep it as grounded and as realistic as possible, and Miller's like, no, we're going out to the edge, and I'm going to kick a few of these fucking people over. They need to be as crazy and as insane as and the thing is that on a couple of them, you look at them and you're like, that's believable, because you don't know where where madness begins and it ends. You don't know where insanity starts and where it would end. You don't know if that, if you look at it, Immortan Joe is batshit crazy. You know what I mean? But he had a quote unquote thriving society. He ruled people, but he was, like I said, just asshole insane.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's why they're so memorable, is that it's not just the look and it's not just the name. It's the fact that Miller has pushed these characters over the edge of insanity and said there is no end to it. When you're dealing with this situation, this world that he's created, that nothing is off limits. That someone whose name is People Eater, would exist in this world, and it wouldn't be like a weird thing. It'd be normal. Like, people would be like, oh, there's People Eater. Hey, People Eater.
Yeah.
Hey,
went to school with him.
Yeah. He was such a cut up in high school.
Right.
By cut up, I mean he cut up a lot of people.
Right. I was going to say, here come the puns. Yeah.
So it's. I think that's why they're the most. These characters are most memorable. It's one of the reasons why video games. If you try, transfer over to that, why games like Borderlands and Fallout are so memorable, because they have taken some of these characters and just literally pushed them over the edge of insanity and said, go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
So, with that, are you guys going to buy the Blu-ray DVD that just came out?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
I don't own any of them on Blu-ray. I have a couple of them digitally, but I really just want to get the anthology now. There's 5 or 6 disc anthology on Blu-ray that came out last night with the Fury Road Blu-ray included. So that's what I'll be picking up personally.
I didn't realize that. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. I mean, like I said, it was an amazing movie. I still don't know if I absolutely love it. There's a lot of things that I did love about it, but I don't know if it's my favorite of 2015. But yeah, I definitely have to pick it up, just because as a movie lover, you know how it is. You need it. You want to watch it. I like seeing behind the scenes, how it was made, just the car chases. If nothing else, I like to see, what they put into it and how much work it took. So.
Well, last night at midnight, I went to my local Walmart, which Nick is on Creighton Road, since he used to live here.
Right.
You'll know exactly where I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
And I picked up the Mad Max game, and I picked up the Blu-ray. I wanted the anthology, but picking up a $60 game with the Blu-ray was enough money for the night. Yeah. So I will probably later tonight rewatch again Fury Road. If not, I will be playing Mad Max, because there is just something awesomely amazing about just driving through the wasteland. And once in a while getting into car combat. Like, I don't even care. Like, it feels like a Mad Max world. At times, I feel like things are too close together for it to be the wasteland. I guess you really have to watch all those movies to understand what I'm saying, which you two should. So, with that, any last thoughts? Mad Max Fury Road, or on what kind of underwear you're wearing?
Definitely, if you did not get the implication from the last 40 minutes of us talking, watch this movie, love it, be like us. Witness.
One of us. One of us.
Pretty much. No, and just a quick comment on, you said earlier, the international film critics have already dubbed it the best film of the year. That was actually stretching from this time last year through this year. So they're considering this to be better than a lot of Oscar winners last year. That was particularly that stood out to me when I was reading that. They're considering it better than films like Birdman and Whiplash, and that's saying a lot.
Those are good films, yeah.
And I would definitely put this up there in the ranks of films like Whiplash that I absolutely love. This is one of those that I think is going to be remembered for a long time. I think it kind of reinvigorated the pure action movie, not just the CG spectacles that we get now in the summer. Those are fun, don't get me wrong. We love the Avengers here. We love the comic book movies. We like the zany, ridiculous films that have all these effects, but there's something to be said about the practicality that was in this film. There's something to be said about the way this was done and how it's stylized. It looks like a traditionally done action film. It's very much a traditional action film.
Well, I think you can also say that movies like The Expendables or some of the more like B-side action films aren't the only way that you can enjoy action. That you can have a weighted movie, that be an action movie, but still say something and still speak to people.
It's an intelligent action movie. It combines, like the intelligence of something you would go find in like a David Fincher or a Christopher Nolan film, and puts that into a 2-hour action bonanza. There really is something for everybody in this film. Nobody that I've talked to, people that did not want to see this, convinced them to go see it. They loved it. I've not talked to a single person who has come away saying, that was boring. No, there's. It may not be for everybody, but at least give it a shot. This is definitely one of the finest films of the year.
Yeah. There's no way, boring is the last word you would use to describe this film, I don't know how you could say that. It's just cool to me when a film that, maybe is not the front runner like Avengers would be or anything, that, kind of makes its way in. Everybody kind of is like, oh, we don't know, remember this, it was a classic back in the day, but then like the reboot or, whatever, the remake is just so strong. It does so well, and they completely revamp it, and it lands like that, so that's awesome. And there's been a few like that. Like, one of my favorites was Kingsman. I love that movie.
It was a good movie. Good movie.
Favorite of the show.
Yeah, Matthew Vaughn just came out of nowhere, and I was like, I'll give it a shot. And I was like, wow, this, for like a parody of a Bond movie, not even. It's got some, amazing action, of course, but all in all, it's almost like it's parodying itself. It even says it, and it just did so well. And I love that, movies that, are like they're not the front runners, but they end up just killing it. So.
Well, that was based off of I want to say Mark Millar graphic novel.
Yes.
It was.
The Secret Service.
Yep.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
So, Nick, boxers or briefs?
Boxers right now,
Okay. Well, I'm glad to see that you've moved out of your G-string phase. I was
hoping we wouldn't talk about that on the first podcast, but yeah.
Or as that one time when you made me take you to Spirit Halloween store to get you an eye patch because you wanted to go to the beach.
Oh, cute. So,
Josh.
Josh is like, he's like trying to keep it together. But no, Josh, that really happened, and it was embarrassing because the eye patch was too big. Josh, where's your face? Josh, look us in the eyes.
Don't break eye contact while we talk about this.
Good times. Yes. Good times. Thanks for having me on here. This is great. This was a good time.
Yes, and we're definitely going to have you back on. We'll have you on a main episode for sure. For sure, Aziz. I'm sure Josh would agree with me. And I'm putting him on the spot. Yep, he'd give the thumbs up. But last words. As always, guys, thank you for listening. You know where you can catch us. I hope if you haven't seen Fury Road yet, you will go see it. And if you have seen it and would like to talk about it, please hit us up at neekpodcast@gmail.com. Join the Facebook group, which is Neek the Podcast. Twitter, you can find us on there. Tumblr even. And, of course... Huh?
Instagram.
Oh, Instagram, correct. Instagram as well. Or we all... you can find us everywhere. We are probably at your local bakery right now eating muffins. So if you want to come down, eat a blueberry muffin with Josh and me and Nick and talk about Mad Max Fury Road and Fiber, more than happy to do it with you.
And it's a real pain to cover all the bakeries that serve muffins in the U.S., so please respect the fact that we're there
out
there for you. Right. Please, guys. So.
And with that, guys, as always, thank you for listening and keep it nerdy.